Have you ever walked away from an argument and just thought, wait, am I going completely crazy? Or maybe you found yourself suddenly doubting your own memory of something you were absolutely certain about just 5 minutes ago? Look, if you're nodding your head right now, I want to validate that feeling immediately. That emotional confusion you're experiencing, it is very real, and it almost always comes from unseen, subtle manipulation that is specifically designed to bypass your normal defenses. And hey, if you think you're alone in this, consider this staggering number. According to recent survey research cited by the American Psychological Association in 2023, roughly 47% of people will experience psychological aggression at some point in their lifetime. We're talking coercive control, emotional exploitation, gaslighting, the whole shebang. So we are looking at a massive scale here. This isn't just some rare, isolated issue, it is practically an epidemic. So that brings us exactly to what we're exploring today. Welcome to this explainer on the 7 manipulation tactics psychologists desperately want you to recognize. Think of this as your essential clinical guide to protecting yourself in the digital era. By the end of this, you're going to have a rock-solid framework for spotting these invisible traps and, more importantly, defending your own reality. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's a quick look at our agenda. We'll start with the hidden manipulation epidemic, then break down tactics that distort reality, exploit emotions, and shift blame, before wrapping up with your actionable 4-step defense strategy. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the hidden manipulation epidemic, and exactly why we're all suddenly searching for answers. Since 2023, we've seen a massive spike in searches for terms like gaslighting and love bombing. Psychologists say this actually tracks perfectly with our heightened anxiety around digital deception. You know, things like romance scams, along with the mainstream rise of therapy speak. But what the research really shows is a dual motivation here. First, there's self-diagnostic curiosity. People aren't just looking for gossip. We're actively cross-checking our own relationships and workplaces, asking, wait, is this happening to me? And second, there's a strong drive for practical self-protection. You don't just want validation, right? You want a usable defense framework to actually stop it in its tracks. Now, before we unpack the specific tactics, it is absolutely crucial to clarify how this information is meant to be used. The psychologists and licensed therapists who provided these frameworks designed them strictly as a protective public service. The goal of this explainer is to help you recognize manipulation being done to you. It is definitely not a how-to guide for manipulating others. We're strictly in the business of defense and education today. All right, let's move into Section 2, tactics that distort reality. When you can't trust your own eyes. These are the maneuvers that specifically target your perception of what is real and what isn't. It's incredibly destabilizing. The most famous one? Gaslighting. This is the act of making someone doubt their own memory, perception, or judgment, usually by just outright denying that things were ever said or done. But here's the good news. There's a psychological concept called inoculation theory. Basically, just by naming and defining this tactic, you start to strip away its invisible power. Gaslighting thrives in the dark, so defining it literally turns on the lights. So, the crucial point is understanding their goal. The manipulator wants you to internalize their false version of reality so that you stop trusting yourself. Your response? You've got to keep a written record of key conversations. Anchor yourself to your own documented experience, because when the memory is right there on paper, you don't have to argue about it in the moment or constantly second-guess yourself. The second reality-distorting tactic is moving the goalposts. This means continuously shifting expectations so you can never, ever fully satisfy them. You hit the target and boom, the target moves further back. It is absolutely exhausting to be kept in this perpetual state of self-doubt, always feeling like you're falling just an inch short of approval. The manipulator's goal here is keeping you running on that treadmill indefinitely. Your defense? Turn that invisible moving target into a fixed, highly visible boundary. Expose the shift the second it happens. Get agreements in writing, or just restate them explicitly out loud. Say something like, so to be clear, this is exactly what we agreed to. When the terms are fixed, those goalposts simply cannot move without it being glaringly obvious. Moving right along to Section 3. Tactics that exploit emotions, the invisible hooks. Rather than attacking your memory, these manipulators weaponize your natural human feelings of affection and obligation. This brings us to love bombing and withdrawal. It kicks off with this intense, overwhelming early phase of praise, but then it's followed by a completely unpredictable withdrawal. This creates a frantic, anxious pull where you're desperately trying to win back that initial warmth. Psychologists call this an intermittent reinforcement cycle. It's a deep biological hook, And frankly, it's exactly what makes this toxic dynamic so incredibly hard to just walk away from. Their goal is forcing you to comply just to earn back basic human warmth. So your best defense is observation. Notice if affection is consistent or if it fluctuates, used purely as a reward or punishment tied to your compliance. Because true affection doesn't operate like a vending machine where you have to deposit absolute obedience just to get a little bit of love in return. Another deeply emotional hook is guilt tripping. This is using a past favor, a sacrifice, or even a mistake you made as leverage to extract compliance from you right now. I mean, we probably all have that one relative who loves to drop the classic, "After everything I've done for you," right when they want a favor, right? It's super common, but make no mistake, it is highly manipulative. The real goal of a guilt trip is to use obligation to entirely bypass your free choice in the present moment. Your defense here is incredibly liberating, honestly. You just need to separate your gratitude from your obligation. You can absolutely appreciate a past favor someone did for you without owing them unlimited, unquestioning future obedience. Remember, gratitude is not a blank check for your boundaries. Let's jump into Section 4, Tactics that Shift Blame, Dodging Responsibility. This is where manipulators expertly throw up smoke screens, pointing the finger literally anywhere but at themselves. The absolute classic here is projection. This is when a manipulator takes their own feelings or bad behavior and attributes them to you. If they're being dishonest, suddenly you're the liar. If they're fiercely jealous, they accuse you of being possessive. It's a brilliantly unfair tactic because it immediately forces you onto the defensive and totally erodes trust in your own reality. And this brilliantly illustrates their goal, dodging responsibility by putting you on trial. While you're scrambling to defend your innocence, they escape accountability completely. Your response here is so powerful in its simplicity. Just take an internal pause and ask yourself, wait, is this actually my behavior or is it theirs? That one mindful pause can completely deflect a massive psychological attack. To keep things highly focused and efficient, let's quickly break down the final two blame-shifting tactics side by side. First is triangulation. Their goal is isolating you by bringing a third party into a disagreement, saying things like, well, everyone else thinks you're being unreasonable. Your response? Verify those claims directly with the people named. Next is feigned confusion, or basically weaponized incompetence. They pretend not to understand a clear boundary just to exhaust you into giving up. Your response is to restate the boundary exactly once, calmly, and then let the consequences stand. Do not get dragged into over-explaining. And that brings us to our final section. Section 5, your 4-step defense strategy. Okay, we've identified the 7 dark patterns. Now we're shifting gears to focus entirely on your proactive defense. Across all the psychological research, experts agree on this one unified 4-part framework. Step 1, know the pattern. Once you name the behavior, it loses its power. Step 2, notice the emotional pull. These tactics provoke strong emotions like fear or guilt to short-circuit your logic. Spot that feeling. Step 3, stay regulated. This is huge, guys. Reacting with visible anger rewards the manipulator with the exact control they crave. Staying calm literally starves them of that control. And step 4, hold the boundary and talk to an outsider. A trusted friend or therapist provides a crucial reality check that the manipulator simply cannot distort. We've covered a ton of ground today, pulling back the curtain on tactics that usually thrive in the dark. So I want to leave you with this one thought. Which of these 7 patterns do you actually recognize from your own life? Whether it's gaslighting at the office or a classic guilt trip from a relative, actively applying what you just learned is the very first step in reclaiming your reality. Take a moment, really think about it, and if you're up for it, share your realizations, because identifying the invisible is how we finally protect ourselves. Keep observing, stay regulated, and keep learning. Catch you next time.